All right, this video is going to walk you through two fallacies called the fallacy of equivocation and amphiboly. These are both fallacies of ambiguity. One of them is semantic in nature and the other syntactical in nature. I'll explain those two terms as we look at these fallacies, but you can see by these goofy little diagrams here on the screen what kind of fallacies you might expect. Here's an example. 2 is a number, 1 is a number, therefore 2 is equal to 1. 2 equals a number, 1 is equal to a number, therefore 2 is the same thing as 1. Or the sign below it here, watch for mountain sheep slippery when wet. Now is that the sheep that are slippery when wet, or the road when it's slippery when it's wet? So you have to just think about ambiguity in general, right? What does ambiguity mean? Have you probably seen these two pictures before? What do you see? Let's look at this one on this side of the screen, right? What do you see here? There's at least two possible interpretations of this. One is a kind of an old, elderly looking person facing to the right, right? Here's the nose. Here's the eye, right? And here's the mouth. That's one option. Can you see the old person kind of looking, and with a hat, big hat on? The other looks almost like a profile of a woman or someone looking this way, right? Here's the chin, here's the eye, here's the ear, and the person's looking that way. Hopefully you can see this. If you can't, you might just need to go online and look at a video that explains it a little bit more. But how about this other image over here? What do you see here? Do you see a duck or do you see a rabbit? Which is it? The duck, here's the bill, right, of the duck, and the duck is looking that way. Here's the eye of the duck. Or is it a rabbit with the rabbit's ears and the rabbit looking this way? The nose of the rabbit is there. Right? This is a duck rabbit. Okay, that's what ambiguity is in general. Ambiguity means that something could be one thing or another, but it's really kind of hard to tell. Someone, for example, who's this is the root of this word ambidextrous, right? Someone who's ambidextrous can use their right hand or their left hand with equal facility. Maybe they can bat in baseball or softball, right-handed or left-handed. Someone who's ambidextrous. So ambiguity, here's what ambiguity means. Something is ambiguous if it's capable of being understood in two or more possible senses or ways. Right? So what do you see in this image below here on the screen? Do you see a vase or do you see two profiles of people looking at each other? Right? Do you see them both? You see the vase? Right, here's the vase. Top of the vase is here. Bottom of the vase is there. Or you can see two people's profiles. Here's the nose, right? Nose and another nose. And people are looking at each other, right? That's ambiguous. It's an ambiguous drawing. It could be interpreted as one or the other. Now, some fallacies rely on this kind of ambiguity. The first kind of ambiguity fallacy is called the fallacy of equivocation. Equivocation. Equi, right, means same, voce meaning voice, or the same meaning. This is a semantic fallacy. It's a fallacy of the meaning of words or phrases or terms that are used. So this semantic fallacy of equivocation occurs when the conclusion of an argument depends on the fact that a word or phrase is used either explicitly or implicitly in two different senses in the argument. Okay, so this goofy little cartoon here kind of sums that up. Hey, you can't just take things, that's stealing. So what? They steal in baseball all the time. If it's okay for baseball players to steal logically, it's okay for me to steal too. Oh, you have a point. Oh, that was easy. Fallacy of equivocation. The word stealing means one thing in the context of baseball, but in the context of a shop or a store means something else entirely. Here's a fallacy of equivocation. Here's another example. Hey, did you know that moss teller kind of leans to the right? Sorry, I just had to lean to the right. And someone, suppose Hector says that, and then John says, I didn't know he had a problem with his leg. No, I mean, he's a conservative. Now, what's equivocal about this term right? Right? Right. What could this mean? Well, there's at least three things it could mean. It could mean direction, right? Or it could mean political party. Also could mean correct, right? Do you know that Dr. Bostar leans to being correct all the time? So leaning to the right could mean like, oh, he kind of, so when he sits, he kind of leans to the right, or when he walks, he kind of favors his other leg, or it could mean that so and so is politically conservative, like he leans to the right of center in their political views or something. So the word right is equivocal in this argument. This inference, if I inferred, because someone said Mosteller leans to the right, if I inferred from that he's a conservative, well, you might be mistaken if what the person meant was, no, he literally, when he makes his videos, he's like leaning over this way, to the right. Okay, so that's equivocation. Here's a goofy example of this from a fine film in the late 1900s.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. Can you fly this plane?
Okay. Surely you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Now here you've got two words. They're spelled differently, but they have the same sound. So the equivocation is on the meaning of the word in the way it sounds. Surely, as in certainly or for sure, and Shirley as in a person's name. Okay, so that's the fallacy of equivocation. Don't call me Shirley.
And land it.
Here's another fallacy of equivocation that occurs in another comedic format. This is from an old clip from Laurel and Hardy, and it has to do with the names of baseball players. Let me see if I can forward this to the right spot here.
What's on second? I don't know's on third. That's what yes.
Funnier than that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Now, on the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Do you know the fellas' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base for St. Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who is on first?
Have you got a first baseman on first?
Certainly.
Then who's playing first?
Absolutely.
When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it. Why not? The man's entitled to it.
Who is?
Yes.
So who gets it?
Why shouldn't he? Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes. After all, the man earns it.
Who does?
Absolutely.
Well, all I'm trying to find out is what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What is on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, don't change the players.
I'm not changing nobody.
Take it easy.
What's the guy's name on first base?
What's the guy's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking about him.
Okay, you get the idea here. So this kind of goes on for another 4 or 5 minutes. But it's a classic example of equivocation, right? The person's names, who, what, I don't know, also happen to be phrases in the English language, which are interrogatives, questions, right? So when you start using those names and questions, all kinds of comedy or comedic situations follow from that. So that's another example of equivocation. Again, not a real serious argument, but a clear case of mistaken understanding in something. So another type of fallacy of ambiguity occurs not when the meanings of the words are ambiguous, but when the syntax or the structure of a sentence is ambiguous. Right? So in this kind of fallacy, it's still a fallacy of ambiguity. One or two meanings could be inferred, but it's a fallacy where you've got a meaning that's, a problem in the way that something is written. Okay, so this fallacy occurs when an arguer misinterprets a statement that is syntactically ambiguous. By syntax, it means something like the structure of the sentence. So look at this sign, slow children at play. Right? Now there's no dual use of the word slow. Slow children at play, but it could mean two different things, right? It could mean the children are slow and they're playing, or it could mean you should slow down because there's children at play. Maybe that's why they had that sign out front of my house. Anyway, all right. Remember, an amphibian, right? The word amphibian, that's why this amphiboly is an ambiguity. Remember, an amphibian, like a frog, could live on land or water. Could go either way, right? So sentences or claims that are ambiguous syntactically with respect to the way they're written is a form of a fallacious form of reasoning when it occurs in an argument. Here's an example of this. Professor Johnson said that he will give a lecture about heart failure in the biology lecture hall. It must be the case that a number of heart failures have occurred there recently. Now, just look at this conclusion, right? What does this conclusion infer? This conclusion says, well, there must have been a bunch of people who had heart attacks in that lecture hall, in the biology lecture hall. But what does the premise say? The premise says, Professor Johnson said that he'll give a lecture about heart failure, and that lecture will take place in the biology lecture hall. So what is Professor Johnson giving a lecture about? Is Professor Johnson giving a lecture about heart failure? Right? Is that what the lecture is about? Is it just about heart failure? Or is it about heart failures that have occurred in the biology lecture hall? Which is it? Right? Because this argument's ambiguous. Let's look at that ambiguity. The ambiguous phrase here, the syntactically ambiguous phrase here, is about heart failure in the biology lecture hall. Could mean the lecture is about heart failure and that lecture takes place in the biology lecture hall. Or it could be taken literally to mean the lecture is about people who were in the biology lecture hall and had heart failures. Right? So it's ambiguous. Look at this sign. The sign does the same thing. This lot is for Benson and Mangold agents only. Violators will be towed at their expense. So if I park in this lot and my car gets towed, who pays? The sign says it will be paid at their expense. Does that mean it's paid by Benson and Mangold? Or does their refer to me, the guy who parked there? It's ambiguous. Could mean one or the other. And the sign's not clear. That's what makes it kind of funny or ambiguous. Maybe you've seen a road sign that says $1,000 fine for littering. You just start throwing $1,000 bills out of your car because that's fine. That's okay to litter $1,000 bills. Here's another example. I think this is right from the Hurley text. I went hiking last weekend, and I saw a deer with my binoculars. Angie, how in the world did the deer get your binoculars? Now look, some of these you have to think about a little bit. And one of the challenges with ambiguity, especially syntactical ambiguity, also semantic, but structural ambiguity, is the kind of thing that if the language that the ambiguity occurs in is not your first or your native language, it can be difficult to pick up on the ambiguity, right? The more that you master a language, the easier it is to come to see ambiguous claims. That's what makes them funny. That's why jokes don't always translate well from language to language, because a lot of jokes rely on ambiguity, and that ambiguity doesn't always translate across languages. But look at this argument. I saw a deer with my binoculars. I saw a deer with my binoculars. That could mean two things. I saw a deer, and that deer took my binoculars and had my binoculars on their neck or around their antlers or something. Or that means I had my binoculars and I looked through my binoculars and I saw a deer by means of my binoculars. Right? It's ambiguous. That's what kind of makes it funny. So you see a sign like this, Cheryl's, eat here and get gas. Eat here and get gas. And you think, well, what is this about? Does that mean I'm going to eat here and get gasoline also? Or does it mean I'm going to eat here, and I'm going to have gas in my intestines in my stomach after I finish eating? Here's another example of an amphiboly in comedy.
One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I don't know.
Okay, I shot an elephant in my pajamas.
How he got in my pajamas, I don't know.
How he got in my pajamas, I don't know. I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How I got in my pajamas? I don't know. So how is this ambiguous? I shot an elephant in my pajamas. Does that mean, do I have to explain this? Does that mean I was in my pajamas and then I shot an elephant while I was standing in my pajamas? Or I got up and I saw an elephant literally in my pajamas, so I shot it. Who was in the pajamas, the elephant or me? Or the person involved in this question? Okay. Here's some funny church announcements. Maybe you don't find these particularly funny, but I sure do. I don't know why. I guess it's because near where I live, there used to be a church that had these kinds of funny signs out. They used to just make me laugh. But here's one. I like this one on the sign. Don't let worries kill you. Let the church help. So here's some funny announcements that occurred. I don't know if people made these up or they were real, but for those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. What do I not know? Do I not know that I have children? Or do I not know there's a nursery downstairs? Next Sunday, Mrs. Vincent will be a soloist in the morning service. The pastor will then speak on It's a Terrible Experience. What's the terrible experience? What the pastor is going to speak on, or the soloist, or something else? Thursday at 5 p.m., there will be a meeting of the Little Mothers Club. All ladies wishing to be little mothers will meet with the pastor in his study. Do you wish to be a little mother? Meet with the pastor in his study. Okay, well, let's just keep going. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house. Don't forget your husbands. So are the husbands being donated to the rummage sale, or are they being brought to the rummage sale for some other purpose? All right, that's enough for Amphiboly. Hope you think carefully about these. They do show up. Double meanings can get you into trouble. You have to be clear in your terms, clear in your meanings, clear in your syntax, clear in your semantics in order to avoid this sort of fallacy. All right, keep thinking critically.